Okay, everyone. So, really excited. A buddy of mine offered to bring over a lot of collectibles he's looking to move, and it just might include original comic book art. I'm not too sure everything he's bringing. I was quite surprised when he offered to come over to my place to sell it. We've done many deals before at cons and other shows and at his storage locker, so it was such an opportunity to, well, I couldn't pass it up. So hopefully he's okay with me filming all the great stuff he's showing me, and we'll see what I'm able to pick up.
I didn't either.
That is so cool. I'm gonna lay it down gently over here once I'm done looking at it. Wow.
Yeah, I
Superman.
spread the whole tub so that you can see.
Yeah,
You
I
don't
appreciate
get to
it.
see this stuff very often. I rarely ever see it.
I know. This is the first I've ever seen of this much original art. Here we have some Superman newspaper comic strips. They were dated 1981. I was unaware Superman was in the newspaper comic strips until the mid to late 80s. It was one of the many things I learned in my research looking back at all the footage, because I was very much out of my depth handling these great art and comic collectibles. I wasn't sure if I should have been wearing white gloves while handling these possibly one-of-a-kind collectibles, but in the moment it was pretty awe-inspiring. Here we have another classic newspaper comic strip, Little Abner. I know it's not too widely known now, but in its day it was a pretty classic comic strip. And following it, we will get to the first comic page. It was not dated or signed. I know very little about the comic making production methods, whether artists signed their pages in any way. But this page of Superman, I want to say was either from the 70s or more likely the 80s. And if it was from the 80s, this page is probably pushing 40 years old, and it was in immaculate condition. So that was pretty awe-inspiring to see this great piece of comic history right here. And it was just the first of many pages that I would come across in this tote. I think the next page here is an editorial comic strip and a few DC pages, if I'm not mistaken. There's a little bit of everything in this tote, which we'll hopefully get across to see. I want to say these two pages were from Hawk and Dove, probably late 80s, 90s. Not too sure why one of the panels was kind of yellow. If you know how the comic books are made, let us know, because there were several pages that had one panel of the whole page that was yellow. I remember my friend told me what he thought it might have meant, but I can't recall. The next page I want to say is a Marvel Inhumans page. Yeah. Majority of them did have a title of the character in the book in the top left. But this looks like a page from the 90s, if I'm not mistaken. In really nice shape. One of the few pages that was wrapped in plastic. So next up, I want to say we have some political editorial comics. Not too familiar with these. They were interesting to see. I'm not sure where they would have ended up, but the art was really nice in them. Although I didn't get the political reference in any of them, really. They were nice to see. I think that one was my favorite right there. Just that particular style of cartoon. Something you would see maybe in the New York or something like that. Here is one of the animation cells. Not too familiar with this anime-like cop character, but if you recognize him, please let us know down in the comments. My buddy and I were trying to figure out where he was from. I think his design was a little aligned with Studio Ghibli in the way they did their characters. But if you know, please enlighten us. And we got a nice little Spy versus Spy. Seeing that brings back memories of watching the little cartoon on, I want to say it was Mad TV in the 90s. Another animation cell. Not too familiar with this character. I want to say it was in Beetlejuice. And I think the other sketch here kind of reminds me of Kazar from Marvel, but your guess is as good as mine, but still interesting. And we have here a Harley Quinn sketch and a Elektra sketch. I was partial to the Elektra myself. I'm not too familiar with the artist, but still pretty neat. I want to say next up we have, it was a pretty interesting piece. This was Donald Duck and his nephews, sketched by Carl Barks, if I'm not mistaken. My friend said he was one of the premier Donald Duck artists, and it was made out to somebody, so it doesn't hold as much value unless if it was not signed. Another, that's a matted animation cell from Heavy Metal. Animation cell from Conan the Destroyer, the Adventurer 90s cartoon. I didn't really get into the PG cartoons based on rated R characters. They just didn't seem to fit. There's another that's not a Marvel, that's an anime cell. I'm not too familiar with the character. If you know who it is, please let me know down in the comments. Next up, we have more animation cells, I believe from Heavy Metal, if I'm not mistaken. So they were pretty interesting. I don't believe they had any kind of COA saying they were used. And here we have the 90s Conan design. I always thought it was pretty strange. Heavy Metal. And more Heavy Metal. And I'm thinking like a Heavy Metal fan would really like those. I remember telling my buddy. And more Conan. Interesting pieces. But they weren't quite what I was looking for. The last few pieces were some interesting Marvel dynamic art right here that only Marvel can do, especially when it's Wolverine. It was really awesome to see these nice Marvel pieces in the tote. There were a few. So there was a quick overview of the original art in this amazing collection. Now I had over 50 minutes of footage that I had to edit down, mainly because the camera angle did not do a lot of this art justice. Unfortunately, a lot of the pieces I ended up picking up were unable to be showcased. Basically my expression when I came across them, I had to edit out because you couldn't see what I was looking at. But before I go any further, I wanted to send a special thanks out to my buddy Roger for basically giving me a call saying, I'm in town, I have a tote original art, can I come by and show you before I send it off to the auction house? Needless to say, I said, yeah, come on over. I didn't know what to expect. He knows the characters I like to find in comics, so he knew those characters were in this tote. So I'm going to show you the pieces I picked up. They were the main draw for my selections, because like I said in the narration, I know very little about purchasing original art, which artists to look at, what type of panels to look for. So I picked up based on the characters. So starting out, we have this sketch of the Elektra. I just really couldn't leave it behind. It was just a really nice dynamic shot. Here's the back. It gives a little bit more detail about the artist. I can't make out the signature, but a really nice sketch. Here we have what I think is one of the showcase pieces. This amazing action scene of Conan the Barbarian doing what he does best. Now this one does have a signature in the bottom here, Ray Garcia 92. Just amazing work. Something I could definitely see in like a Savage sort of Conan. I saw it, I knew immediately it was in my gotta pick up pile. This other panel, it wasn't labeled, but I got the feel that it was Conan going up against some demon, or even, I believe, his god Crom. And this amazing layout. Fortunately, not labeled, not dated anywhere, but I just couldn't say no to it. Really nice piece. Here we got one more amazing piece showcasing none other than Conan. And then it says here was a pinup. But take a look at this. It's amazing. Very, very hard to describe. It's just got that brutal 90s Conan feel to it. Somewhere near the end of the Marvel Conan the Barbarian run, where they did other series, the Destroyer Adventure, I believe is what they were called, in the mid 90s. On the back it says pencils by Robert Brown. You see that right there? Who I'm guessing is the RB right here. There's another piece that I saw that I couldn't say no and I had to pick it up. So there are two more pieces I'm going to have to show you in the other room because I framed them to better protect them, but probably some really good pieces in my opinion. So I'll show you those and then we'll talk about how much I paid for it all. Okay, here we have the other two pieces I picked up for my friend. I put these in frames to better protect them, and the first one is showcasing another favorite character of mine, Swamp Thing. I'll kind of go over it so everybody can kind of see it. Pretty sure it's a more modern Swamp Thing story. On the bottom here it says Jason 14. What that means, 2014. But what makes this one different from all the others is this is actually 2 sheets of paper. But forgive me, I don't know the comic making lingo, but there is the regular pencil comic drawing behind this other sheet that was stapled to it and kind of inked in. So I guess that's what the inker might have done to show what it's going to look like until the coloring stage. But I like the little notes that were left on it. Got messy hair, grass texture is messy, and this one over here, it says ugly face. Always been a fan of Swamp Thing since I was a kid, with the movies and the toys and the comics. So owning a piece of Swamp Thing, although modern Swamp Thing art, is still pretty amazing. And next up we have what I think was probably the best piece of art he had in his tote. We have this nice splash page, I think is what it's called, X-Men. So I'll just kind of go over this one here. Beautiful artwork. Definitely has the 90s X-Men. I'm not even sure if I actually own this book, but it's showcasing the 90s team in all their glory. Got like Wolverine. I like the Bishop here and there. Colossus, Storm, Angel. That's supposed to be Forge. Not really sure why that panel is out, but it's really, really, really awesome. And I hope to hopefully put it in a smaller frame, but to showcase it at this moment, I put it in this frame I had lying around. And although I'm a fan of Conan and Swamp Thing, I think this one might be my favorite piece just because of the splash page right there and how it moves the story. Okay, everyone, so there's all the great original art that I picked up from this collection. Really excited to have the opportunity to pick it up. My first original art deal. And now that I've kind of laid it all out there, Mr. Roger and I went back and forth on price, but for the original art pieces, I paid $1,000. So let me know down in the comments what you think of that deal. The Conan, the Swamp Thing, the Elektra, the Amazing X-Men page. Was it a price you would have paid? Did I overpay? Did I underpay? I still think it was an amazing deal, and it did not end right there. So on the table, my buddy threw this down. As you see here, it says Frazetta Prints. He picked up in a collection, but this tube was filled with 20 Frazetta posters, averaging about 18 to 24 inches. Really nice. I've been a fan of that fantasy art, mainly, you know why, for the Conan, but I can't show all of the ones I picked up. I will put the ones I can show up somewhere up here, but if you're familiar with Frazetta, you might know some of the ones I couldn't show by title, like Moon's Rapture, Golden Girl, Ghoul Queen, and that famous one of Conan with a rather scantily clad woman clutching his leg. But I was super excited that he threw those in the deal for an extra 100. So when it's all said and done, 1,100 got me the original art and got me a tube of amazing Frank Frazetta prints. So just the icing on the cake, because it's going to be an awesome task to frame not just original art but all the Frank posters. So I really felt like I came out pretty well in this deal. It's another thing to think about down in the comments. 1,100 for it all, original art and a tube of Frank Frazetta posters. So let me know what you think down in the comments. I really like going back and forth with all my viewers who enjoy the content. I really appreciate everything y'all do to help me grow the channel. And if you comment, like, and subscribe to the video, it helps me out. But until next time, thanks for watching.